The Suicide Squad.
The
Suicide.
the
Suicide. So welcome to
welcome
our first movie
Ever.
review. The Junk Food Boys in a new form. So
Yeah, it's exciting.
our inaugural
There you go.
debut here. That's a bit redundant, but our inaugural movie review. So
Inaugural?
We'll see. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's going to be one of those.
I see.
Yeah. Right. We
So
recorded for 2.5 hours last time,
yes, we did.
and now it's gone
I know.
because I can't use it. I can. I'm being lazy.
You're being lazy.
I'm being lazy.
I
I don't
know
wanna-
you are. I can see it in your face.
I don't want to have to
When
figure
you're
that shit out. I don't want to figure it out. I
Yeah.
just have to convert and all that.
Just
First,
convert.
just convert.
Yeah.
It seems easy.
Warm.
I know someone's listening to this and they're like, dude, why don't you just convert?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why don't
we
you
know.
just do this? Click.
I don't
here,
wanna
da-da-da,
convert.
Done. He doesn't want to learn to. Convert.
I don't want to convert.
He doesn't want to change.
All right. So I didn't want to convert. The file is gone. That's fine. We'll
Yeah.
live. We're re-recording now. We're gonna do the review proper
Right.
now. The Suicide Squad,
Suicide Squad.
2021.
Right.
What did you think? Just right off the bat, let's get it.
Well, I was really surprised about how much I liked it. I loved it. So much fun. I want to go see it again. We
And,
had a blast.
You were you kind of mentioned it there. You hinted at you
Mhm.
not really being excited about watching it. Right?
Yeah, I was not excited about it. I was not looking forward to it. And I hadn't even seen the first one.
Yeah, you weren't terribly excited.
No.
You haven't even really watched the original
No.
2016
I actually
version.
didn't. I didn't even
But you
bother.
heard bad things.
I heard bad things, and I saw a few clips here and there with people that were doing reviews, maybe on TV, maybe on, whatever,
Right.
just advertisements. And the things that I saw, it just was not appealing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, you're not missing much.
Right.
Like I've mentioned before, I think to you,
yeah.
and even in the lead up to watching this one, where you said why you were kind of questioning why I wanted to go watch it, and
I really was.
and
I
I
was
was
like, you want to go see the Suicide Squad?
right, and it, and I was trying to help you understand that,
Yeah.
it's not
You were like, okay, wait.
the same
Just-
thing, really,
it's
even though it
James
is,
Gunn,
right? So it's
so
and
I was
it's
like,
interesting
okay.
because it's not entirely spelled out for
right.
you in the trailers or
No.
even in the marketing and promotional material that
Right.
this is a completely new thing
To be fair.
or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
almost like you see, first of all, it has
Uh-huh.
a similar title, right? That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
part. Second, it has some of the same actors,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it almost has like the same kind of tone too, like in the trailers.
It's like angels are splooching all over us. We're bad guys. It's what we do.
Nothing really matters to me.
Where
the
it's just you kind of see that
Right.
is it the same type of movie?
So I was going to say, to be fair, when a trailer did come on, I had stopped it. So I didn't see a full trailer.
Okay.
Ever. So, but what I did see is exactly what you were describing. It's not, it just didn't look like it was something that I would enjoy.
Right.
And I was really surprised that you wanted to go see it.
Yeah. and I remember telling you it's James Gunn. This guy knows
Mhm.
what he's doing. Don't worry about it.
Mhm. Right. you
And
did.
sure enough, that's what it turned out.
Yeah.
It turned out to be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
James Gunn. James Gunn is great. He's done fantastic work with Marvel already, with with comic book movies already.
Right. I know you're really knowledgeable about the work that directors have done. So
Right.
I just like to hear about that a lot more.
Yeah.
So regarding James Gunn,
Right.
what is your favorite work that he's done?
Well, you see, that's the thing. Like that, he's not the type of director that I would say he is one of my favorite directors, and
Okay.
yet I can't speak to one of his movies being one of my all-time favorites.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
for him, though.
Right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah, I would. I
And
would.
it would give me reference, you
I
know,
would say-
beforehand.
Right.
You know, so I was looking forward to seeing what you meant.
I would say that the Suicide Squad is now his best film. It's
Yeah.
the most complete
Wow.
James Gunn project
Cool.
so far. I
Yeah.
mean, the Suicide Squad has everything that he's great at,
Yeah.
which includes, you know, his penchant for extreme violence,
Right.
extreme sexual innuendo, sexual humor, dark jokes.
Oh, well, fuck you all for laughing.
A number of things that he has brought with him from his early days with Trauma Entertainment, where they reveled in making a lot of like exploitation movies. A lot of these directors that we see, you know, they started off in these low budget horror films that are usually completely different than what they go on to do later in their careers.
Interesting.
And James Gunn is one of those. It reminds me a lot of like Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson started off with making really low budget horror films. That were, you know, that's where he cut his teeth.
Suck my spinning steel, shithead!
And then, as you're following his career, you see him making something like The Lord of the Rings. So.
And so life in the Shire goes on.
But I love Peter
Yeah.
Jackson. He's definitely one of my favorite directors of all time.
I remember you talking
Yeah.
about him. Oh yeah, I mean you've gone to lengths about
Right.
him. It's so interesting the
Yeah.
work he's done. You've showed me some. I had no idea.
But let's jump into it. So let's get
Right.
into it. We'll start off with the story. Amanda Waller, who works for the U.S. government, has this secret
mission.
operation
Yeah,
going where she recruits these lowlifes, you know, from this prison system that houses a whole bunch of like
Right.
supervillains.
Supervillains, criminals.
She sends them on, they're called like Task Force X or some shit like that, and she sends them on like these top secret missions that are highly dangerous, or they have to do with something that is not exactly something that you can send Superman for. Maybe it's some kind of
More of an undercover
assassination
or
mission or something like that.
There's some darkness that they'll
Right.
they'll have to perform.
confront. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. That's basically the story. She sends
Right.
the Suicide Squad on
Bunch
the
of
suicide mission
Super misfits.
to find a thing. She's sending them to go to, and spoiler alert. So if you don't like
Yeah.
spoilers,
Yeah.
you just want to hear a really quick recommendation, yes or no.
Yes or no?
Go watch the fucking
yes,
movie.
thumbs
Yeah.
up. 2 thumbs up.
Go watch it.
You won't regret it.
No. Right, so here we go. Amanda Waller sending them on a mission
Right.
to destroy this
Island that
intergalactic monster
Mhm.
that they found out in outer space. His
Outer
name is
space.
Starro. So he's an intergalactic starfish.
Right.
They're supposed to go in, destroy all of it, and then get out. That's just it's that simple, right? A very simple premise, and that's what James Gunn did so ingeniously here, and he's
Yeah.
done it before with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies,
Yeah.
where he has this huge cast of characters, and he's able to make them all work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing how he's able to do that.
It
and
really works.
almost every character here has their own little journey within this
Yeah.
bigger story, with a mostly satisfying conclusion at the
Right.
end. So
It reminded me, actually, just thinking about that, it reminded me of, in a sense, of The Wizard of Oz. With
Right.
them as, it was
Right.
basic. She had to go home. She had to go find the Emerald Castle, and Kingdom, and she had her friends. But this is a much darker film with a lot more going around it,
Sure,
with
sure.
each character. But it just it's like that. They're on a mission. They're looking for this place.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I like that analogy actually. That comparison. You have like these really obscure misfit characters.
Exactly.
You know, most of them. I mean, I would say all of them really. Arguably, Harley Quinn is now she's an A-lister, but she definitely started off as a B-lister.
Right.
But it's mostly B, C-list characters that James Gunn clearly has a thing for.
Right.
He's a big fan of of the comic book, and he makes them work. Let's jump into now these characters. Okay, so let's talk about the characters. I guess we can go through a list, right? We'll we'll try to think of all the characters, and we'll talk about each one individually, because that's the best part, right? That's the best part, talking about these characters.
Yeah,
so,
they're so unique in their own stories and their own backgrounds, and how they mesh together,
right?
Because of this adventure
Right.
that they were on,
right?
Misadventure.
Okay, Amanda Waller. That's a
Yeah.
good one to start with. First of all, Viola Davis, of course,
She has presence.
such a great actor.
Yes.
And her Amanda Waller is just now it.
It's
like
in
that's
it.
it.
Yeah,
like she is Amanda Waller, and I
Absolutely.
hope to continue seeing her. I mean, it's she's so charismatic.
Yeah.
She's so easy to hate. You know, she's one of those characters that just love to hate.
Yeah. She's so
I love
smooth
those
with it
type of
and
characters.
silent with it.
Yeah.
You know?
She's so evil.
Yeah.
She is so evil, and she plays it
In a
so
suit.
well.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Crazy.
exactly.
It's
And it's one of the characters that they brought over from the original Suicide Squad movie.
Right. I understand that.
Right. It
as
worked.
much.
It worked,
did.
even though the original Suicide Squad was so shit. She sends in two separate Suicide Squad teams,
Right.
basically, right? So.
Yes.
She sends in a decoy, what turns out to be a decoy team. So it's Michael Rooker as Savant, Pete Davidson as Blackguard, Weasel, Captain Boomerang,
Javelin.
played by Flula Borg,
Right.
who is just amazing. He's a great comedian.
Yeah.
This serious, you make a poop in the party.
Harley Quinn.
Right.
We all know Harley Quinn.
Right. It is what it is.
And, Mongal.
Ah, that's right. Yeah.
Mongal's on there too. We're forgetting one character, actually, TDK, the detachable kid,
Oh yeah.
and Rick Flag. So
That's
Rick
right.
Flag,
Rick Flag
right.
was on that too.
Which also comes from the
Right.
first
Oh,
Suicide
I
Squad.
see.
That made up the first team,
Right.
the Suicide Squad. So it's a misdirect.
When I heard about the Suicide Squad, that was what I envisioned. Some weird, just I can't imagine them all being together and working together. They're so different from each other. So that was interesting, and I thought that was what we were going to see.
That was the team. That's what you thought. Okay.
because that's how it started.
Right.
And so I was just prepared to see them mesh together,
Invest
see how
in
they.
them.
Yeah, exactly. And wow,
Yeah.
did we get surprised?
We see that it was a complete misdirect.
Right.
There wasn't the actual team.
Yeah,
And most of them get killed, actually.
in awesome ways.
Flula Borg as Javelin is funny for the little bit that he's in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was great.
Weasel is your favorite,
Yes,
right? So
love me some Weasel.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Child murderer. He killed 27 children. You're just gonna be okay with that, though,
I mean,
right?
look at him.
Okay.
He's adorable.
Okay. That's fair.
Yes, I want a stuffed animal of Weasel.
Captain Boomerang, I was surprised it was also killed, because I kind of wanted to see more of
Yeah.
him. I mean, it wasn't like he was a great character either. I was just hoping that, we'd continue to see him more, and he would become a great character, I was like, maybe under James Gunn's direction,
Yeah,
that can make Captain Boomerang a really big part. So,
right.
Mongal gets killed. I mean, I know that she was probably the
She didn't even
least one
talk.
that,
Yeah.
it was just very, very short.
She did her thing and then she got killed.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
So we get them out of the way. They
Yes.
they really didn't factor into the overall movie. But the actual characters, now we can start off. So we already mentioned Amanda Waller, so that's good. Rick Flag, he came over from the first one too, much better. I know you don't have a reference point for that, but
Right.
Joel Kinnaman's performance here is just leagues ahead of his original performance as Rick
Really?
Flag. The character is much more interesting.
Okay.
And
Nice. Because
that's
he did
that
great.
his
I loved him.
no, I mean he
I
had such
bought
a
it.
great ending too.
Oh my god.
Which again, spoiler alert. But he dies at the end in
And
a fight
it's
against
heartbreaking.
Peacemaker. Yeah.
It's literally heartbreaking. You don't want him to die.
Right. There's some humanity in him, and
Yeah.
he's different from them because he's not exactly like them.
I was going to ask,
He's
what
he's a
was his
soldier.
crime?
Right. No. So he works for Amanda Waller directly.
Oh, that's
and
why.
he's there to kind of almost like chaperone.
Yeah.
Then there's Bloodsport. So
Yes.
Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who kind of, in a way, like, unofficially takes over for Will Smith's spot as Deadshot.
Okay.
Where, if I'm not mistaken, James Gunn and Warner Brothers, they did reach out to Will Smith, you know, to join this one.
Oh,
and,
really?
I think he declined because of scheduling conflicts or something like that. So Idris Elba kind of like took over that spot, but didn't
Not
take
his
over
role.
the character. But it's essentially really the same thing. Like, it's the same character, really, where they're both marksmen. They both have like this relationship with their daughters and all that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
However,
Mm-hmm.
Idris Elba and Bloodsport in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, much more interesting than the original
complex.
Suicide Squad, and complex and realistic.
And
like,
realistic.
I mean, to an extent.
I mean, for
because
a
there
comic
are,
movie.
right. I mean, well, look, I mean,
it's
just
cool.
cliched in the first one where you see Deadshot and he's like this kind of, he's supposed to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
But he's got a heart of gold, which Will Smith plays very well because he's just so charming already, when you see him, and everybody's used to him and all that.
All around good guy.
So he has this heart of gold.
Yeah.
You don't really see him do anything terrible throughout the whole movie or anything like that. Anyway, point is that he has a daughter in the film, and that was his point.
Right.
That was his story, and it was just uninteresting because it was just a typical heart of gold, I love my daughter, he's a good person around her kind of thing. And he has to redeem himself at the end. He's kind of in that situation where, he has to get out of prison because he loves his daughter or some shit like that.
Okay.
There's a scene where Batman shows up, they're walking down an alleyway, and his daughter gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets in between Deadshot and Batman, so he wouldn't shoot Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Real stupid shit. It was so awkward. It was just so stupid, hokey, cheesy, awkward bullshit.
Well, that didn't happen in this movie.
No,
I didn't see any of that.
No, thank
Gladly,
God.
I didn't see that. What you're talking about.
Bloodsport.
Yeah,
is
it was so
met
cool
by his daughter.
Yeah,
and right away there's fucking conflict.
No, fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
They're
And
cussing at
they
each
hate
other
each
out.
other.
They
both resort to telling each other "fuck you."
Yeah.
I love that, but it's so real too.
It's so cool. Yeah, it is, because for his character, he's not
It makes
supposed
sense.
to have a fucking daughter.
Yeah.
And he references his, your stupid mother.
Right. Right.
It was hilarious.
He's just so abusive,
He
so
is.
dysfunctional.
He doesn't want
relationship
anything
there.
to do with taking care of her.
Exactly. No, because he's a fucking killer. He's a merc.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
he gets. It's so funny because she's like, "You don't even care about me stealing," because that's why she went there to tell him. I guess to get some fatherly advice or something.
Well, no, she goes there because she reveals that Amanda Waller
that's right.
told her, that her father could possibly do something so that she could avoid jail time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she goes there for that. So
and he doesn't give a fuck. Right.
He gets upset with her for telling him, but also because she stole something stupid, and she got caught. That's what he cares about, and she flips out.
Right,
it's awesome.
I had a more direct emotional attachment to that than watching Deadshot's daughter get in between Batman and Deadshot. So he wouldn't kill Batman, he wouldn't get in trouble.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, Batman arrests him there and then takes him away, and Deadshot kind of like, is embarrassed because he's arrested in front of his daughter. It's just stupid shit. What are you doing? It doesn't matter.
Cliche shit.
It was so awkward. It was so stupid. Cliche.
We've seen it for
so many
1,000
times.
Yeah.
So many times. Trying to humanize Deadshot in just the worst possible way. It's so stupid.
Yeah, and I love that this movie didn't do that.
Doesn't do that, yeah.
It really it humanizes them, yes.
Right.
But in the most realistic way you could humanize a comic book character.
Super villain.
Right. Exactly.
Right, exactly.
In a positive way.
Right. That's the best you're going to get.
Yeah,
That's the best you're going to get. But it also sets up the potential for him to really redeem himself. And that's the point.
To grow.
Yeah, to grow and to become something better, you
right,
know.
to realize certain things,
Yeah.
maybe. But that was the beginning, and no, he was nowhere near.
No, that's
at that
writing
point.
101,
It
man.
was awesome.
That's writing 101. You
And they
want
did
these
it
characters
great.
to go through a journey, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, traditionally.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
John Cena's best performance in any movie
I
yet.
know, yeah, I
He
love
really
it.
worked.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
He was Peacemaker.
Yeah. I can't see anybody playing Peacemaker.
After
It's
this, no.
He was so good.
It's fantastic.
He was funny.
He was awful.
He was.
He
he
was-
has the dramatic acting chops too. When he had to get serious, he got serious,
Yeah,
and
he
I was
did.
surprised how well it worked.
Oh,
It worked too well
Yeah.
because you really come to hate this motherfucker.
Yeah, you really are disappointed and let
Right.
down, and you just beyond the cockiness, beyond the asshole.
Right.
You know, the ego.
Right.
There was more, and he had another layer of being wrong and being bad, and that was so interesting the way he did it.
Right.
I bought it.
Yeah. And there's this scene where the Suicide Squad team comes across. They're wanting to rescue
Mm-hmm.
some of their members. Rick Flag. They're wanting to rescue
Right.
Rick Flag. They learn that he's in a certain encampment somewhere. They go there. They show up. They see all these soldiers, you know, just kind of doing their thing.
Yeah.
And on this outpost.
And on the way, they're having this, you know, back and forth, you know, dick measuring contest.
Yeah, and so they start attacking
And then
this
so to show
outpost,
off,
and they start competing with
they
each other.
start competing with each
Yeah.
other by killing these people and
And
all
to see
these
who can kill in more interesting
crazy.
ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And they were interesting.
which was brilliant.
Yeah, because they're great.
I love the guy that got chopped up with an axe, which is so brutal. I love the guy that show up in that we get our first dick shot there.
Yes.
I think our only one
Only-
that's full,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you do see Peacemaker's bulge in tidy whities at a certain point.
That was kind of weird. I didn't care for that.
I loved it.
Well, for that reason, like the, you know,
Yeah.
that factor.
It does give him
sensational factor.
It does give him a certain element, like he's his own thing.
Yes.
Because he's out in the fucking jungle
Yes!
on some island
And he's got fucking
or
tidy
the
whities on.
rainforest
That's
or whatever
it.
the fuck it was.
That's all he got. That's all he had.
And
on.
he's okay with stripping all the way down to his teddy whities
He don't give a fuck.
to sleep at night in
Yeah.
this hostile environment.
Yeah.
And then wearing his stupid helmet at the
Yeah.
same time. It's just, it shows how much actually
His
he
character.
doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
how confident he is, how arrogant he is, and also
Yeah.
how bereft he is of shame
Mhm.
or anything like that. Like he's just
He's a true narcissist.
one track mind. I'm there. I'm here to. I don't give a fuck. Right.
Right.
And he's fine with being super comfortable too around
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
strangers and all that. So I just thought it was
I
great.
know. Yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
to
And
see
they're
him.
like,
Because it wasn't
okay.
just like a gag of it. It was.
No, he was serious in
It was that. You know, you seeing him in his tidy whities,
Yeah.
but it also says a lot about his character.
that
which is what I like.
he played it smooth. He
Right.
played it serious when he did that. So that played into his character development, and
Yeah.
he did so well.
And it's all these little bits and pieces here
Yeah.
that James Gunn and his actors just pulled off so well.
They
There's these little gags, little
yeah.
quirks here that just add to the characters
Yeah.
over the span of the run the movie. So
The dynamics between the crew, the
right.
cast, oh my god, it was just great.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
we do see, going back to Peacemaker, like they're
Yeah.
both killing him, and Bloodsport are killing all these fucking men and women
Oh my
in the
God.
outpost.
It's
Very
a lot.
gruesome,
It's like 30, 40
Very
people.
bloody, very violent.
Yes. Very
Um,
quick.
Gratuitous nudity with the guy coming out and his
Yeah.
schlong just hanging out.
Yeah.
He
It's
gets
brief,
killed.
but it's there.
Yeah. Loved it. There's love in it, and it
It made it
gives us a
realistic.
good understanding of who Peacemaker is and how much he really doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like he'll murder. Like he does.
He don't give a
doesn't
fuck.
care.
And neither did
They prove it.
Bloodsport.
Neither did Bloodsport. To be fair.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
And to see them being the great marksmen that they are,
Right.
the fighters that they are. I mean, it was just like, oh dang, they do have some talent,
right.
So that was a way to show off their talent.
True.
And they were showing one another up because they're supposed to be the same, as far as talent.
Right.
as far as that kind of ability.
Right. No, well, Bloodsport, I think,
Bloodsport
says,
did.
I hit them right in the center, and then Peacemaker says, well, I hit them more in the center.
Yeah.
And he's like, how can you
How
hit
can you
something
do
more?
that?
And he says smaller bullets.
Yeah.
Is what he says. So, and that comes into play later when they meet each other at the end.
Yeah, that was definitely a little,
Yeah.
you know.
You
Set it up and knock him down.
You can't have something. This is screenwriting 101 too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't introduce something just because.
Right.
You know, if you're setting up a shot,
Mm-hmm.
it has some meaning behind it.
Right.
It has to, or it's just filler, and you're wasting your fucking time.
Right.
And you're wasting your audience's time too.
Right.
So and that goes with lines as well. Any kind of line or piece of dialogue for the characters, the story, it has to make sense, right? So they set up something like that, and then they pay it off later. So Peacemaker, great. I loved him. I loved him too.
Character.
Funny.
Yeah.
One of those characters too that you love to hate.
Yeah.
Very despicable as the story goes on. He does end up killing Rick Flag.
He does not redeem himself.
No.
So that's the difference. You know, there's redemption stories. There's hero stories
Right.
and tragedies, but Peacemaker has none of that.
Right.
And that's interesting.
Yeah. He really becomes the villain
Antagonist.
of it all.
Mhm.
Yeah. The ultimate
The
villain.
true one.
And it's a great way to end it, really, because he's now not a traditional villain then,
Right.
right? Like this cliched villain, because you have your cliched villains in the movie.
Yeah.
You have the general, the general of the army who just wants to destroy America and all this other shit. Like
he has
wants
an
to
agenda.
he wants to use their intergalactic starfish, to destroy America and all that.
Right.
Just typical mustache twirling shit.
Yeah.
Then there's Starro,
Bad government.
actual Starro,
Yeah.
and all that. So you have those villains, but the interesting ones are always the ones that are like Peacemaker, where there's some grayness to them.
Right.
Because you see him starting off as this anti-hero,
Right.
and then at the end he just becomes a villain, but not because he's evil, but because he wants to finish the mission.
He's such a narcissist and so just cannot see the bigger picture because of all of that.
Right.
He will do what he feels like he needs. He doesn't like people telling him what to do.
Right. Right.
And changing things up.
Sure.
Because that would be surrendering. That would not be leadership.
Right. That wouldn't be
In his
Peacemaker.
head. That wouldn't be Peacemaker's leadership.
Moving on. Who's next? So let's get this character out of the way because it's just my least favorite. Harley Quinn. So.
All right.
Yeah. Very quick. I mean, I love Margot Robbie. She's one of my favorite actresses. She's been great in other movies that I've watched. Never liked her as Harley Quinn. It's just point blank simple. I mean, that's just it. I don't think it's
not
entire.
for her.
It's not for her. But even then, her performance here was not bad.
No,
it was
I
actually really
liked
good.
her, actually, as Harley Quinn. It made sense, the things that happened to her, how she would act.
Right.
I really digged her outfits and how, my favorite was the dress, and when it got ripped and she was all, disheveled.
Yeah.
That's my favorite,
Yeah.
and I'm even considering that for my Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Because she looked so badass. It was so cool.
This was so far the best live action, I think, iteration of Harley Quinn. But it's just not saying much though.
Yeah.
Because, she, even though her design was great in the original Suicide Squad, I mean, it's become a thing now that even the comics and TV show, like the animated TV show, has taken on. Besides that, I mean, there are elements to like, but it's just overall never really felt like Harley Quinn. And I really don't think, here's the thing, I really don't think that it's hard to do Harley Quinn. That's what I think.
Sure.
It's hard to do Harley Quinn in general. And without getting too deep into it of why, I think this is just another example of that. It's just hard to bring Harley Quinn to life the way that fans of the original Harley Quinn from like the Batman TV series, animated TV series,
Right.
and even
More
even the
sinister.
comic books, when we've seen her, with the Joker. It's hard really to bring that character to life separate from the Joker. And I know a lot of a lot of fans get upset about that. It's like she's, she doesn't need him, and that's been her whole thing, really. She doesn't need him, that she's moved on from the Joker, both figuratively and also
But
literally,
then what?
like it's like this thing, like it's actually happening.
Yeah.
She's actually moving on from the Joker because now we're seeing her in the Suicide Squad, no mention of the Joker,
Right.
that kind of thing. So, and that's fine. I'm not saying that it's a terrible.
But why was she there? That's the thing. I felt like everybody else had these great skills. I don't remember
Right.
her being that kind of a,
Right.
fighter
Yeah,
and have those talents. I don't. So that threw me off.
when she's
They
going
wanted to
around
make
shooting,
her, yeah, that was cool.
that's cool, because
But
she's just
it's
shooting. I
not
mean, you
her
could kind of explain that.
Yeah.
Just real quick in
I
her
guess.
backstory of like she likes guns or something,
Maybe
or
Joker
her
showed her
father
how or
used to, Joker taught her, or
Yeah.
her father used to be a hunter, and
Right.
she knows how to handle weapons or whatever, right?
Right.
You
So
can do
that's-
that, but this
she
whole,
has a
you're
dark
right,
side.
but the hand-to-hand combat thing, which is why I
I
would
mean,
have
she
preferred.
was like matrixing it.
Yeah,
It's just like Harley Quinn.
right,
I
right.
was like, okay, it was cool though. It was one. I
Yeah,
think
no,
it was
it-
my favorite fight scene.
Really, really awesome.
Yeah.
The visuals were awesome.
Fantastic.
She was murdering people, which was great compared to Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Where, she was shooting motherfuckers with confetti bombs or
It
some
was really
shit,
stupid.
which is so fucking
and
stupid.
dancing around.
Yeah, no, it just it
was dumb.
didn't work. So I'm glad that they
They did something for
corrected
real.
that,
Yeah.
right? It's like when I know
She
we
kills.
see she murders.
Yeah.
And there are certain aspects that I did like. It's just I think I just have like this distaste for the Harley Quinn, this adaptation of Harley Quinn. I
Yeah.
love Harley Quinn in the animated show right now that's running on HBO Max. It's not that I don't like the character, because that's great. I love that TV show and I love her in it. That's why I prefer someone like Poison Ivy, which I've mentioned before, is my favorite character. Makes much more sense for the film because she has superpowers. She controls plants and it's so strange.
But
So,
okay, let's just
Fuck
let
it.
this happen. Fuck
Yeah,
it. I'll
fuck it.
pretend
It's a comic
for
book
the
movie.
moment because
Fuck
it's
it.
done so well.
Let's move on. All right, very good. All right, so Polka Dot Man in the movie anyway. First of all, that's what I love. We haven't really mentioned this explicitly, but this movie is about that obscure
Dysfunctional.
C-list fucking supervillain characters that nobody
D-list.
really D-list even right. These kinds of characters that nobody knows about, and even the ones that do know about, they don't give a fuck about them.
Exactly.
And for good reason.
Right.
Just this random,
Right.
obscure
And they
fucking
brought him
joke
to
of a
life.
character, and James Gunn's like, fuck it, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Let's get him on here. And yeah, you're right. I mean, what an amazing character with Polka Dot Man. First of all, the
It was
actor
so
who did very
unassuming.
well.
Yeah.
The actor, great performance.
I mean,
and I think we're going to say that across the board.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody gave a bad performance in the whole film.
No.
Not a single bad performance. No.
That's also why you're going to love this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think we could just get that out of the way
Yeah.
right away. The cast, fucking amazing. So we don't have to keep repeating it. Oh, the actor did a great.
So the
Yes.
reason why we really liked Polka Dot Man
Polka Dot
was
Man,
his
his
past,
story,
his
right?
story.
So different from the comics, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Although I don't know because
Maybe.
I mean, who the fuck knows about Polka Dot Man?
Yeah.
There's some DC.
I thought they made it up
fanatic out
just
there,
for the
right?
movie, and come to find out, he was actually one of the obscure old ones that they kind of locked away in a vault. Because
So he has a really dark past.
Yes.
In the movie,
in the
where
movie.
his mother was a mad scientist and experimented on her children by injecting them with some kind of intergalactic virus or something to try to turn them into superheroes or
that's what she said, superheroes.
Okay, yeah. Oh, specifically, which makes sense. Which makes sense
That's
why he says at the end. Yeah. So some of his siblings died.
So it wasn't child, it was children.
Right.
I mean, she did it on all of them. And he says at one point when he's revealing his past, it was so sad and tragic. He says, some of my siblings did not make it, or something like that. You know, there were some that didn't live.
Right.
I mean, what?
Yes.
And the
those
ones that
did, him being the perfect example.
Right.
Of how fucked up it was that she did that, because he now has to live with
It was awful.
The disease, the virus, affected him
Basically a
so much
disease.
that he has to expel the
of
polka
these
dots
polka dots.
twice a day, or they'll overtake him. It seems,
Right.
or kill him.
And
So.
it's awful. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah, and
you
it's
know.
it's so awesome to see it though, because it,
I
it
was like,
looks
wait
kind
a
of like David Cronenberg-esque, like this body
Yeah.
horror stuff where
Yeah.
the design was so cool, where you see these like colorful lumps
It was-
coming off. He looks almost like the Elephant Man.
Yes.
Um,
Fluorescent like lumps forming all over him
Yeah.
slowly.
There's this really great scene where
Mhm.
he's throwing up the
Yes.
polka dots, but you don't
In the
see
middle
it.
of the
Like it's
night.
kind of like in the distance, like
Yeah.
it goes off
He
by
goes
himself.
off in the bushes
And you see
because
this rainbow
he's-
colors and all that, which
you
is
see-
awesome.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
so
really great
cool.
image. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what is
Yeah.
happening? You see something, you see all these colorful polka dots or something expelling from him in
Right.
some way. And it doesn't reveal it right away.
Right.
We know that something is really happening.
Something grotesque is happening.
Yeah, to the
But
man,
it's
and
so
we're worried.
colorful, which is what and I keep going on
So
about James Gunn because
cool.
he's so amazing. But I
Well,
mean,
that's another
that's the
example.
point
Yeah.
of how James Gunn can take something that's supposed to be so grotesque,
Mm-hmm.
so ugly, so disturbing,
Mm-hmm.
so off-putting, and just turn it
into magic.
turn it into something magical. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He just has that
It was
fucking
so
magic
cool.
touch, man. He's like
It's
Midas.
so clearly he's a very creative person, because that
Absolutely.
takes somebody really creative to bring an obscure,
Right. Because you can imagine how and who
seemingly
knows?
boring and like
You can imagine
forgettable
with a weaker creative.
character as Polka Dot Man.
A weaker creative,
To life.
you want to show
Yeah.
Polka Dot Man's powers or whatever. It's
Right.
just gonna go straight to
Yeah.
throwing polka dots around
think,
and
like,
or doing
okay.
something like that where
Yeah.
just
No, it's
showing it
all-
off quite basically.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, he's polka dots being thrown
And
around.
there's that.
But James Gunn does it in a way that's just
tells a story.
it tells a really disturbing
Yeah.
story there.
Interesting,
Yeah.
disturbing, and it makes you feel for the character too.
Right.
Because he's not necessarily a good guy. He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And
something's wrong with
traumatized.
him. Something's wrong because there's
And
a whole
we
bunch of
find out-
moments where
we find out that something's really fucking wrong with this man,
because he
at
keeps
one
mentioning like he keeps
his
making like these
references.
one-off jokes
point, yeah,
that to him are unintentional,
Yeah.
but
because he's feeling it.
yeah, because he at one point he's
It's like nervous jokes.
Bloodsport's sitting next to him during the briefing
Uh-huh.
when they're being debriefed or something, and they're being debriefed
Yeah.
and then he says. Bloodsport says something like, "Oh, we're all gonna fucking die," and then, or he says, "We're all gonna die," and then and Polka Dot Man is next to him. And he's
Right.
like, "I hope so."
Yeah, he
And
makes
and
these little lines.
He makes these, He's just
these
so
dark jokes.
He's so filled with self-loathing
Yes.
and self-deprecation. He really
yeah.
hates himself.
Yeah,
there's
he
so much
doesn't-
depth to his.
He just wants to
his
leave the
character.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we find out, that he's really fucked up. Like
And
that was awesome.
and they all the team has
It
his
was-
mother's head, like
you see it from his view suddenly
right.
after he says that, and everybody is themselves except they have his mother's head. Every
Right.
single one. His mother was everywhere.
Right.
But she had the mannerisms of the original characters, but it was his mother
Right.
making it was
Yes.
awesome.
So which they
He's
because
fucking-
they keep
yeah.
making those allusions to how crazy and fucked up he is.
Yes.
Like he at any moment can just probably explode
Do
with
something
these
crazy.
polka dots and
Yeah.
just kill everyone. He
He-
doesn't even seem that imposing or intimidating.
No.
But there's something about him that you don't trust.
Yeah,
and,
you're kind of like
yeah.
side-eyeing him.
Right, And
What's he gonna do?
You
Yeah.
do see him eventually towards the end when they
Yeah.
finally face Starro.
Ugh,
And this is jumping ahead, but I mean, it's so important for his character, and that's why we like him so much.
yeah. He finally.
They're fighting Starro at the end.
They're losing.
Giant starfish,
Yeah.
which is fucking awesome. But we'll get into that in a little bit when we talk about Starro.
Right.
And when he's fighting him, he envisions a giant version of his mom.
Yes.
And he shoots her with polka dots, and eventually, essentially injuring Starro.
Seriously injuring him for the first time.
Right, exactly. They're gaining ground on the fight
Yes.
now.
And
he's so excited,
so happy and
and
proud
he's
of
yelling
himself.
out, I'm a superhero. I'm a fucking superhero.
Right, to Bloodsport, because he was right next to him.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he gets
And then
smashed.
he's crushed. He's killed.
Just like that.
Right.
I'm a superhero. I'm a fucking superhero. And he gets
And
crushed
then gets
right at
killed.
that moment.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it touched me.
Right,
He
right.
died
Yeah, it was sad.
happy.
Yeah.
Ratcatcher 2.
So, yes, Daniela Melchior, I think was her name, which
believe
is,
so. Melchior.
she's new to me. I've never seen her.
I don't think we
she
have.
did great. I know I already mentioned that, like, all the actors did great. But she was the heart of the story. She
Yes.
was the heart of the movie, I think.
She was the one with the empathy, compassion, drive, and bravery.
Right. Her story was genuinely touching.
Yes.
Where you see Polka Dot Man, very emotional story too, but very disturbing.
Yeah.
Right. Where even though, yes, he did, his mother was evil and all that.
Right.
He's still attacking his mother, which is pretty dark. It's pretty disturbing, that kind of thing.
Makes sense, but yeah,
it's dark. So Ratcatcher really is the more like loving, touching.
She had a great
empathetic,
father.
Actual emotional journey.
Yeah, she had a father who loved her and taught her to love everything around her, even the smallest, dirtiest, lowest of the low, supposedly, lowest of the low animals and creatures of the world.
Right.
And that would be rats.
Right.
And unfortunately, he was an addict, and so she had a wonderful father in a moral and sense, but in humanity sense,
right,
humanistic sense. However, she lived a very hard life,
right,
because of his addiction, and he died when she was little,
right.
And so she really had to rough it on her own with the rats,
right.
Yeah, and so she was just kind of brought down. She did not believe in herself at all. She's just like, I'm just here.
Right.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
That's when we first see her. She's just lethargic.
Sleeping her life away, basically. Yeah. And her father, played by Taika Waititi, who is just fantastic in anything he's in. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge fan. I love him, and that Taika Waititi and James Gunn, that they work together. It's almost like a movie fans' wet dream come true,
wow.
right? Where it's like, fucking, are you kidding me? Two of the great, directors working right now. James Gunn hiring him to be in his movie and all that. It's just so fantastic. It's great to see that, and he really in the very little time that he has on screen. He's awesome as the original Ratcatcher. And it
was great.
Their journey turns out to be so beautiful.
It was very touching.
Yeah, Nanawe. So he's like the Groot character from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And Sylvester Stallone provides his voice. It works.
And you don't picture Sylvester Stallone.
No.
I thought I might, but no, not once.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah, because of how well the character is portrayed in the film, and even like the visual effects and the design.
Badass.
It looks really realistic, actually. It looks like a living, breathing, giant shark, like anthropomorphic shark.
Yes.
Bird.
Nanawe, stay off the comm.
And his character has got a really good emotional journey himself.
Yes.
Where, he
has no
friends. He feels that way, and
so
little by little he starts,
starting to make connections, with a few of them, not necessarily all of them, because he's just kind of there.
Yeah, then he does try to eat Ratcatcher too at some point.
So while she's sleeping, Sebastian. That's when Bloodsport saves her.
Yeah,
that
he saves
moment.
her the first time.
And Sebastian had went up to Bloodsport.
Yeah, to tell him, hey.
Yeah, hey. So they make it.
But Ratcatcher 2 makes that connection
eventually
with King Shark right away, where she's like, hey,
you don't want to hurt me.
You don't want to hurt me. You just, you're just hungry. And it's like, you wouldn't eat your friends, though. And he reveals, I don't have any friends. And she says, well, let's be friends. Right? So she befriends him right away. And shows him that that there's trust there,
right?
And it really helps him like start
building connections and trusting the team and feeling like he belongs,
trying to be a part of the team and helping them out and that.
And that was I think that was mainly the first example that we see her show her empathy and compassion.
Right.
Where everybody else was just pissed off.
Right.
And she was too at first, but then she looked deeper
Yeah.
to try to understand, and she saw in his eyes that he's not trying to hurt me.
Right.
He was just hungry, and you know, and they talked it out.
Right, right.
You know,
And
it was really interesting.
and ironic too, because you know, she says, I love the line where she says, he has such kind eyes.
Yeah.
You know, and you hear all the time how devilish sharks,
Yeah.
especially great whites, how their eyes are just, you know, completely soulless.
Yeah.
And, you know, and
it's true.
the devil's eyes, you know, that kind of stuff. And, you know, but Nanaue has, like, she sees
She
the
just
kindness
has the
in his eyes.
ability
Yeah.
to realize kindness when she sees it
Yeah.
and feels it.
Yeah.
And there it was. That showed her strength.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it was sowing a lot of seeds for these payoffs later.
Yes.
That really do hit home.
Yeah. So many
because you
seeds.
see King Shark at one point. There's an aquarium in Jotunheim, the structure that's housing Starro.
Right.
There's this random aquarium in Jotunheim, and
There's
he
these
sees
weird
these
creatures.
weird little creatures in there, and he thinks that they're friends, so he wants to
Yeah.
join them.
Because they keep
'Cause
following
they're-
him
and he-
along the glass wall.
Right,
of
he's
the
playing
aquarium.
around with them, and he
Yeah.
considers them dumb, just like himself.
And
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, dumb friends like
That's
me.
so
and
interesting.
he tries to
He starts
befriend them.
laughing
Yeah.
and running, and
Yeah,
it was like watching a child.
You
we
know,
don't know.
yeah, and-
but probably.
and of
for
course
his
it's not
character.
that deep because
Yeah.
that's the point, right? It's
He's
'cause
not
he's a
that
dumb
deep.
character. Yeah.
But he has heart.
Yeah, he has a big heart.
He
so.
really just wants to be friends
Right.
and eat. That's
And
all
eat a
he
lot,
cares
yeah.
about.
And
And
he
he wants to eat people because they taste good to him,
Right.
not because he hates them.
Right.
But he will kill for out of anger
yeah,
if they hurt one of his friends.
true.
And
That's
that
true.
was interesting. So
Yeah.
he is actually probably the nicest one out of all of them,
Yeah,
besides Ratcatcher too.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, very very cool design,
Yeah.
very cool character.
Oh, badass.
Yeah. Moving on. So the movie doesn't have a strong villain, really.
It's really about the journey.
It's really
of
about
the
them, the Suicide
Suicide
Squad,
Squad.
right? So, but
it works, though.
the villains though aren't too bad either. I mean, you get the generic
You know they're
evil
dangerous,
general.
but
You get the evil general
Right.
of the army or whatever the fictional the Quarter Maltese army.
right.
You run of the mill stuff, you know, nothing interesting there.
Right.
Then you have the Thinker. So he's like a scientist who works for the military there.
Mm-hmm.
He's studied Starro, this intergalactic space monster.
Right.
He doesn't really make much of an impression
No,
either. They're
he's
just
not
kind of there.
that actually physically dangerous. He didn't
Right.
even try.
Right. But finally, Starro,
life.
though,
Oh,
I loved.
Yeah, it
I
was
love
pretty
the
cool.
design, and I love that
it was wacky.
it's a fucking giant starfish monster from outer space. Like, that's what I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. It escaped.
it's wacky.
It's destroying shit
Weird.
because there are these little tiny little starfish that come out of its armpit that get onto your face. They're face huggers, and now
Suddenly,
Starro can
They can control the conscience.
control now. You know,
apparently.
yeah, he controls you now. He controls your body and all that, and he's able to communicate with you
and
that way
he
too.
takes your energy,
Right,
and that's he can keep you alive as long as he needs to.
right.
And it's not really alive. He just uses your body.
So that was all interesting. I love Starro and the
Yeah.
design. It's just he wasn't the strongest villain though. You know, it's just that. But that's not what it was about.
Yes and no.
Because Peacemaker was,
Well, yeah.
you know, that's a much more interesting villain. But just to see
just
this
different.
giant thing
Mhm.
destroying a city, it's a fucking starfish. It's
Mhm.
not like a giant beam
He
coming
hates
out of the
people.
sky.
He hates people.
Yeah, that
he
too.
has he has a reason.
Yeah,
It wasn't just a stupid animal coming to
True.
destroy like Godzilla or something.
I loved the way the movie ended, where you see all of it come together.
Yes.
What James Gunn's able to do and his team.
Right.
I mean, unbelievable shit here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the set designs. I love the costume designs
Very much
for
so.
the main team anyway,
the
not
main
the
team.
original team. But that was done on purpose.
Clearly.
Then there's the cinematography, which was awesome, and there's a tone and atmosphere going on there that I just loved. It's almost like I think in one of the trailers they talk about how there was some behind the scenes commentary where it's like the 70s war film, you know, in a comic book movie, you know, that, and I love that because it really does come off that way. And there's all these flourishes of style there, where you get the rain sequence when they're walking through the rain.
Right.
Gorgeous,
Yeah.
gorgeous to
Really
look at.
cool,
Just so well
man.
shot. The music choices that James Gunn is just great at. That he knows how to pick certain songs for certain moments that just fucking make sense.
The colors.
The colors,
They
man.
just really
Polka
used
dot
colors
man,
the right way.
you know, and
Her
his way of
dress
doing it.
with all the
dress
background
is
of the mansion. I mean,
True.
it just looked awesome.
her
the birds.
when she stabs Starro through the eye and she's there
you
floating,
see it in
and
the eye.
there's that contrast of
liquid,
colors
whatever
and all
that's,
that. Yeah.
it was really cool.
It's gorgeous shots, man. It
Very
just
much
and that's
so.
what he does.
It was done right. It wasn't
Yeah.
overdone.
The
It wasn't
visuals were
done too
fucking
little.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
Everything just coalesced
Yeah.
perfectly with
Really.
each other. Everything from the script to the directing,
Yeah.
the camera work, the
Everything.
cinematography, the editing was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
the pace was just, it just kept going and going in all the
Yeah.
right ways. I was never bored. The fucking movie's
No.
2 hours long.
It did not
didn't feel like
that.
it.
I think it's
Yeah.
one of the first movies I've ever felt like
Right,
a 2 hour movie that I've been like, what?
right,
That was 2 hours?
right.
I don't
right.
think so.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't feel. It was just a ride. It was an awesome ride.
Yeah.
I think everybody will love this movie. If they don't love it, they'll really like it.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
I
no.
mean, I can't imagine somebody just really hating the movie.
Yeah, and it'd be. I mean,
even if you don't like blood and guts, you're gonna find a lot fun.
I can see.
and
Well, I mean, I can imagine how there are those who
appreciate-
just don't like comic book movies, right?
Of
You
course.
just don't like superhero movies
You know,
and all that.
maybe
So I
not
understand
even-
that.
Yeah.
It has that luxury too of being an R-rated film,
Yeah.
where James Gunn was just allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. And he didn't
it's,
overdo it.
It's kind
I
of
loved
hard
it.
to compare it to other comic book movies because they don't have that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the comparison still has to be made, I think,
Well-
because it's only fair, and that's that. This is much more. This is just a refreshing comic book movie when you compare it to some of the more recent Marvel
Right.
comic book movies that have been churned out by Disney.
It's a good point.
Yeah, PG-13, family friendly stuff, which
Right.
it's fine. It's just
They're
that.
good movies for the most part.
Yeah,
the ones
yeah.
that came out.
It's just, I haven't watched
Avengers
Black
and all that.
Widow, but I mean,
Well, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Apparently,
So-
that's not that great.
yeah, no, I don't know.
But,
I don't know. I still have to
right.
watch it, but.
Right.
You know, but this is just its own thing, and yeah, I prefer this, man. It's a darker, grittier take on the comic book film.
Yeah.
It has so many more surprises to it. It's not too involved with like this
Mm-hmm.
this comic book universe that they're trying to build or anything. It's kind of like its own story.
Yeah.
And it just
So many stories
works so
in
well
the
because
story.
of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I really like it because of how adult it is. too.
Yeah.
It's an adult movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of it.
Without taking itself too seriously.
Right.
Yeah, it's an adult movie without taking itself too seriously.
It's a
which is what I
fun
like.
adult movie.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I like that, and this is just my opinion, but let's say they took out the adult factor and it was PG-13. I think it still would be a badass movie. Maybe not as good, you know, because you're hoping like, well, I know that there should be blood and guts here, you know, or whatever.
Right.
But I think because of the way that the stories were told and how
Right.
it was directed and just, I mean, it was just great. The music, I think it still would be a great
It
movie.
might have been. It might be.
No, because that's how much faith I have in this movie.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
and it makes sense too. Like I made this point to you before that, you know, especially us millennials,
Mhm.
we grew up with
Mhm.
these comic book movies with Tim Burton's Batman and
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve's Superman. You know, but definitely Batman is where it started.
Right.
Proper, I think, where we're like, holy shit,
Right.
it's Batman on the big screen, you know, and
Yeah.
it felt like a comic book movie. Jack Nicholson's Joker as well,
Yeah.
which was fucking amazing,
Always.
and we just kept evolving from there.
Mm-hmm.
and the Disney, Marvel, those Marvel movies that were a bit sanitized and all that, they're still working, but there was Blade before that.
Oh, yeah.
Blade was rated R. Blade was very adult and all that, and and we
There's some great
we
moments in Blade.
remembered those, and we grew up, with these kind of darker comic book movies too. So this isn't
That's
completely new,
Nah.
but we have been starved for this kind
Hellboy.
of R-rated, comic book movie. Well, Hellboy was PG-13, but
Well, it was still dark.
sure, yeah, in comparison
Spawn.
for sure, yeah.
Spawn was pretty dark.
And then of course there's Deadpool too,
Yeah.
to give Marvel their credit, right? So Deadpool was amazing, but I mean it just makes sense that yes, we want these more adult comic book movies made because the comic book fans, these millennials, I mean we've grown up. We're growing up with these comic book movies. And we want them to evolve with us. So we're getting older. We expect our comic book movies to get older with us too.
And those are the people that are getting those jobs, or
That's a good
got
point,
those
too.
jobs,
That's a
so
good
they're
point, too.
able to, dish out or make those movies, make the ones that everybody
True.
in that generation wants to see.
Yes.
And then the new generation also wants to see, I believe.
Right.
Right.
But anyway, so good, great. Go watch Suicide Squad. We're gonna watch it again.
We are.
Yes, I can't wait. So excited. I love the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited to discover things that I missed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same
It's
here.
going to be that much better.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to our commentary.
Yes.
We really enjoyed it. We
Yes.
enjoy this. So.
Yeah. This is our fucking fifth time talking about the movie in depth, so
Yeah.
it's been a lot of
We
fun.
did it by ourselves
but it's
several
also
times because
very,
that's what we
very
do.
tiring as well.
Yeah.
So we're glad to be done with it. Until the next time, until we come back and do it
Until the
again.
next time, and we'll go at it.
After our rewatch.
Yeah.
It's like, revisiting Suicide Squad, the things we missed.
Exactly.
All right, thanks guys. Until the next review.
Until the next review. Bye.
Call the cops, got mad motherfucking marijuana.